It's decision time for Braden Burries, getting you ready for everything you need to know about tomorrow's announcement.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Today's episode is brought to you today by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Brayden Burries is announcing Wednesday at 9:45 California time. This is obviously a really, really big deal for the University of Arizona. And a big thing that we need to talk about is where exactly does this stand for? How did Arizona get here? And I believe, again, I would be stunned. But if Arizona does not get Brayden Burries, they have done a very, very good job with his recruitment. A massive, massive shout out to Jack Murphy. And I think the one thing that you got to look at is you also got to say, what does he bring to the team? Assuming he does commit, and if he does commit, Arizona needs scoring. Not only does Arizona need scoring, they need a guy that can basically just put the ball in the bucket in a variety of ways at all three levels. And the thing that you need to know about him too is that he is very, very advanced at what he does. And not only is he advanced at what he does, he's able to get to all three levels on the court, and he does it with an ease. And he is like I said, he's a really good player. I would assume that he is going to be a one and done. But that's something that you certainly live with. He is he's just a really, really good player, and he fits in well with what Arizona wants to do. It also goes to show you too that Arizona is able to be competitive with Arizona is able to be competitive in the NIL era. Listen, does it have $15 million? No, but it's got enough to play with, and you're going to potentially have a pretty expensive roster next year. So we're going to see how that plays out. But overall, this is good stuff for the University of Arizona. And I think the one thing that you also got to look at is you've also got to figure out, okay, what does this mean from an on the court, off the court experience? Brayden Burries is a very popular player in the California scene. He is, again, he's a lot like Carter. I mean, you look at Carter. Carter's basically retweeting everything that he's putting out there, and not only is he retweeting everything, he's also putting out there that again, come play. And I think that's a fun part about all of this. So, Clutch, though, also you got to factor in, being that he is announcing on ESPN. Clutch is really, really, really good PR, because he is when you've got somebody like him, he is when you got somebody like LeBron James on your side, you want to take advantage of that in every way you can. And that's what you want. He's going to be announcing on ESPN, and you got to give them. Arizona's gotten a lot of kudos here because, again, Koa Peat announced on Pat McAfee, right? The day after LeBron James was on. There was pretty cool stuff. Then after that, you also had, like I said, you've got Brayden Burries, who's going to be announcing on ESPN. You factor in the Bryce James aspect to all of this, and I think it's really hard to sit here and say that it's not pretty cool stuff what's going on at Arizona. And that would be an easy top 5 class. Not only would that be an easy top 5 class, that would be one of the better classes in school history. Now, would it be the best? No, it definitely wouldn't be the best. So you need to people need to keep that one in line. But at the same time, there's a lot of different mixing and matchings that can be done, and I think that's what's exciting about this. But also redirecting the money to Arizona men's basketball I just think it's just a pretty good idea. Listen, one thing that I got to give DRF is that she understands finances. She came in here and she decided that she was going to she's got to clean things up financially. And I think that that's something that is that's very easy to see. And she's doing that. But that also means that you've got to prioritize what brings in money. What brings in money in Tucson is Arizona basketball and Arizona football. I know that football hasn't been great, but I get it. But at the same time, if you're going to invest and try to get stuff back you're going to want to invest in something like Arizona basketball, giving Tommy Lloyd a really, really nice little a nice little extension, and his coach's 3-year deals was something big. And he is like I said, she's done a good job of taking care of him there. I get that there are some frustrations, and I totally get all of that. But at the end of the day, this is also a team that you're kind of like, where is, what more do you need? And we're going to be talking about that in a second, but we need to stay focused on the recruiting aspect here, because the recruiting aspect is that Arizona is able to bring in really, really good players in the NIL era, and they're able to do it with a limited, number of offers. Tommy Lloyd is not a guy that likes to offer a lot of players, and that's fine, but you got to hit on him. And so far, Tommy Lloyd has hit on them. And that's something that that's something that you want. If you're not going to offer a lot of guys, then you better hit on the players that you're going to get. So then the next thing that I think you need to look at is how does this team then play? How does this team then match up then if you've got that lineup and you've got those kids coming in. You've got Brayden Burries. You've got Brayden Burries. You've got Koa Peat. You got Dwayne Aristode. That's 2 top 10 players right there. And then you've got a top guy who's probably going to be a top 15 to 25 player if he was healthy in Dwayne Aristode. So you got that. Then on top of that, you also got Bryce James. And what I like about bringing in somebody like Bryce James is you know that he is it's a developmental thing. He's not coming in here to start, nor does anybody in his camp expect him to start. That's like I said, that's something that I think a lot of people have to keep in mind, is that you're not going in there to start. And as long as the family is patient, I think they're going to be fine. And there's no reason to indicate that the family won't be patient. That's the other thing that I think is kind of annoying about all of this when it comes to the LeBron factor, where people are like, oh, well, it's LeBron. It's going to be this diva type situation or whatever. No, it wasn't like that at all with Bronny. And I don't think there's really any reason to believe that that's going to be like that with Bryce James as well. He is, they know what they're getting, but either way, the clutch aspect here is very, very cool. And I think that's they knew what they were doing here. This was a spot where you knew that Arizona was going to be in a good position going forward here. Clutch, they were able to take care of it. And again, you want to play with some good players like, around there, and that's what they're going to do. Now, Burries, though, is also an interesting one because of what he represents here. Tommy Lloyd has always been a coach that, you want to do really well in the Southern California area. That's just, that was something when Sean Miller took over. That was something that he wanted to do immediately. He wanted to be able to, put his stake in California. And that's something that Tommy Lloyd has done a really good job of. And it means a lot more, too, than I think just the average person thinks. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that does mean, because there's also another intriguing aspect here. But first, game time, my friends. Game time. Okay, here's the deal with game time. Okay, the great thing is there's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching the last-minute MLB showdown or soaking up the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that can be a challenge. But Game Time says, do not worry, we are here for you. Game Time makes last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer. They don't get bigger, they drop. That's what you got to like about it. And on top of that, you've also got priority. You can get last minute deals, really cool stuff. You can peace of mind and price guarantees. And you're not just limited. Limited to that. You're also just limited to a lot of concerts, you name it, they've got it. So the one thing about it too is that take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And I think that, again, you can go to concerts, you can go to games, you can go to a lot of different things. So check it out, Gametime. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, let's talk a little bit about what this means then. You always want to have a really good reputation in California, period. If you're recruiting at the U of A, that is a big, big part of this. And Tommy Lloyd obviously wants to have a good reputation there. He got card, and he's been able to get the players that he generally wanted out of California. He got somebody in a Kylan Boswell. Granted, Kylan Boswell didn't work out here. We all know that, but he was still a highly rated guy that Arizona was able to get. Carter Bryant, another one. He prioritized Carter very, very early on, and he was, they were able to get him. But also the other thing too, good family situation like with Carter. And then you look at Braden Burries. If you're able to get Braden Burries, that would be another massive, massive commitment. These are 5-star kids. And, like I said, Carter obviously worked out. Boswell didn't. But at the same time, I think that there's every reason to believe that Burries will work out, assuming he comes here. But you want to have a good reputation in the California scene. And I think that Tommy Lloyd has just that. So we'll see how this one does play out. I do think that we are kind of at the stage now where Arizona is, their roster's kind of set. Now, again, you might add a couple guys here or there, but it's pretty much set. You've got a starting five. I think if you do get Carter Bryant back, and we're going to talk about Carter here for a second, Carter's obviously close with Burries. The thing that I will continue to say about Carter is that I understand if you want to go, definitely never going to say anything, but at the same time, you also need to, I think you got to do what's best for you. And if you can get $1 million by coming back or whatever the number is, and you're better prepared mentally and emotionally to go off to the NBA, I think that's something that you got to look at. Plus, I think you can compete for a national championship. Carter is a really, really good prospect. I've always felt this. Carter is the type of player that you see and you're like, okay, the jump from that freshman to that sophomore year is going to be immense. And that's like I said, that's just kind of the way it is. I think the difference in having Carter back is I believe Arizona is a national title contender with Carter. If it's not a national, or if you don't have Carter, then that is I think it's more of a top 15 to top 25 team. But we, like I said, we shall see how this plays out. Also, though, having been with Clutch, that's a really good thing. Now, the one thing that I would say, though, is if you do get those rosters back, it's hard for me to sit here and say that, Arizona can go get, another player, whoever the case may be, because your money's kind of spoken for at that point. Again, if you got $5 or $6 million, you can probably do the math on who it's going to, who's getting what, and like I said, probably kind of spoken for at that point. So I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to try to even kind of push that one out. So, but Arizona is in a really, really good spot. Now, one thing, though, that I think that you got to give Arizona needs to do, though, is I still think they need to figure out that backup point guard position. And with backup point guard, obviously, that is excuse me. That's I would like to see it be Evan Nelson, Harvard transfer, went to South Point. I know the coaching staff has been in touch with him. Arizona needs one more ball handler, in my opinion. They also need somebody who can shoot threes, and he can do both of those. This past year, you had somebody that did not shoot threes, or actually that didn't really handle the ball, and you didn't really feel comfortable with them. Jaden Bradley had to play 38 minutes per game. That's not sustainable, in my opinion. In my opinion, you have to have players that are able to, that, can play. And if they're on the roster, they're expected, at some point you might have to play. That, all of Tommy's talk about Conrad. And again, Conrad played for pretty well in limited minutes, but it was all hot air. He clearly didn't feel comfortable playing him for extended minutes, and you can see why. But so you need to have somebody that you feel comfortable with. Evan Nelson is a much better basketball player across the board. He's bigger. He can just do more, and he's older. Like I said, this is going to be his fifth year in college. He would be a nice little 12 minute per game guy, or maybe not even that much. Also, the other one too, I get people all the time that are like, I don't want ADO back. Yes, you do want ADO back. If ADO is coming back to be a 12 to 14, 16 minute per game guy, depending, you want him back because he can shoot. Not only can he shoot, he's also shown that he's a pretty tough guy, and he's clutch. You want guys like that I can sub you in and out because you're probably going to make your free throws. I want ADO back. Now, I don't want him back starting, but if ADO is, like I said, if ADO is playing depending on the matchup, he could go anywhere from 7 minutes to 19 minutes per, I'm totally cool with that. I think people have these outlandish expectations that Arizona should just have all Americans and then all Americans backing up at every position. You got to be smart about your roster construction. You got to be smart about who's going to be doing what. And I think that's the case, and I think they're doing a very, very nice job at that. So, and again, the coaching staff clearly knows what it's doing. Nelson's the kind of guy that I would keep an eye on. Maybe a Uriah Tennant, like we talked about too, from Prescott. But I can also see why people are also a little bit, battle scarred with, some mid-major players, but it is what it is. There's a lot of good mid-major players out there, and some people are like, brought in Seth Henderson, ADO, this and that. Those guys were meant to be 7th or 8th guys, not starters. If they're 7th or 8th men, that's totally fine. I'm totally cool with Seth Henderson playing in that kind of role, and anybody else should. I think it's revisionist history not to be okay with that, and I think Arizona fans also need to understand that that's also part of the game too. That you've just got to be able to hit on the mid-major players. If you hit on the mid-major players, then you're going to be good. And you also got to know about the role. That's the one thing too that I don't understand, is that with the role that these guys are coming in as, if you're bringing somebody in to be a star, you better hit on it. And again, like I said, I keep talking about it. Look at Texas Tech this past year. Texas Tech was one of the 4 to 8 best teams in the country, and their best players were mid-major transfers. You look at JT Toppin, you look at Darian Williams. These guys were mid-major players, and guess what? They elevated their game and became better. Now, you've just got to find the right ones. So this idea that, we're never going to be able to find the right ones, this or that. No, you just got to find the right ones. And I think Tommy Lloyd has shown that he can do that. Now, his coaching staff also deserves a real shout out here. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the coaching staff. Tommy Lloyd gives his coaches a difficult job here, but again, that's why they are up to the task. You've got 2 coaches that recruit. And when I say that recruit, Steve Robinson doesn't recruit. The coaches that recruit are TJ Benson and Jack Murphy, and he gives them a very limited amount of players that he wants to offer scholarships to, and he expects them to get them then. And they've done a pretty darn good job of it to this stage. They are at They've got a pretty good hit rate, but when you've only got two guys that are continuously recruiting like them, and they're able to get the players they want, again, a massive shout out to massive shout out to TJ Benson. They played the long game with Koa Peat. They ended up getting Koa Peat because guess what? Arizona was the best option for them. It was the best school as far as playing time, the way that they could see him fitting on the roster. And Jack Murphy's the other one. Jack Murphy is the absolute man. Jack Murphy has been the lead recruiter from day one on Brayden Burries, and he's just a tireless worker, whether he's international, whether he's recruiting domestically. He's just done a really nice job with what he's done. And again, he's the other type of guy you need coaches like this. You need coaches that are going to be one of those, that are going to burn the midnight oil, stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff you need from your coaching. And Jack Murphy is that. Jack Murphy is that to a T. He's perfect. Both those guys are great. Now, if Steve Robinson retires, I'd love to see Arizona get a more active coach. And again, I know Steve Robinson, he's the Caleb Love whisperer. I get all that. But Caleb Love's no longer on the team, and I think Arizona's got to upgrade. I think it's really difficult in this day and age to have two coaches who recruit and another one that you don't know exactly what he's doing. Arizona's got to step that one up because I don't think it's fair to Murph and I don't think it's fair to TJ Benson. So I'd like to see that one upgraded. But overall, like I said, those three guys between Tommy Lloyd, Jack Murphy, and TJ Benson, they put together a very nice class. And this was Tommy's a cool customer. You got to sit there and say that Tommy is a cool customer and how he's played this one out. It's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, nothing's done until it's done when it comes to recruiting. But tomorrow, at 9:45, I would think we're going to probably see the Braden Burries stuff, and then I would we're going to have a live reaction to it because, like I said, there's that would, assuming Arizona gets him, that would be a really big thing. And again, guy that we're not even talking about a ton is Dwayne Aristode. Dwayne Aristode is going to be a beast here in Arizona. As long as he's healthy, Aristode is the type of player that is going to go out and he's going to be a difference maker. He's going to be an animal, and that's what I think. That's what Arizona obviously needs. You need to replace some of these guys, and I think Aristode is going to be right at the top of that list of players that's going to be able to make a huge difference. And who knows? Like I said, I still think you probably bring in another transfer or two. But for everybody going around looking for these high-priced players that are, Arizona probably can't afford them at this point. You've got enough money. Your money is kind of spoken for at this stage. And, like I said, that's something that you just got to keep in mind. Arizona doesn't have unlimited money. It's got enough money to be really competitive. And I also give DRF a lot of kudos for making this one happen. But, you got to prioritize what you got to prioritize, and that's that. So tomorrow we're going to be talking all about Braden Burries, how this happened, what it means for Arizona going forward. We're also going to talk, we're going to start talking a little bit of Arizona football. I'm going to be out at practice here in just a few minutes, let you know how they look, how fast they are and everything. And like I said, hopefully finding an offense that is, it has a better idea of what it's doing than last year. But again, I think Seth Dagey is a really good coach, and I don't have any doubt that we're going to see a better offense out there, because I don't think it's possible to see a worse offense out there, even though you're losing multiple first-round picks. But that's what we're going to talk about. We'll also be talking a little bit about the Arizona women's basketball search. That's something that I know a lot of people, have strong opinions about here. With that one, like I said, I just don't understand why people can't say that maybe it was just best for both sides to break. But that one kind of is what it is. We shall see. But tomorrow, like I said, that's going to be Braden Burries, because that would be the consummation of a lot of hard work for Arizona, and a lot of not only a lot of hard work, a spot where Arizona is, can look down and say, yeah, we're in a really good spot when it comes to recruiting. But going to be Brayden Burries Day. And then, like I said, Arizona, we'll talk about the offense. I'm excited to see about the offense in football. The offensive line worries me a great deal, but it is what it is. I can't can't really control that. Javin Watley, a kid that we're definitely going to talk about some more as well. And then obviously some Adia Barnes and just kind of that. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Tomorrow is going to be a huge day for Arizona, and we are going to have that all covered here on Locked On Wildcats. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.